Tonight's story is not just horror, it's a nightmare based on real events. Strange whispers, dark shadows, and an evil presence changed everything forever. Listen carefully and don't watch alone. If you like my story, please subscribe my channel. So let's start it. Every night Arman returned home from work at exactly 12:15 a.m. His office was across the city, and by the time he reached his apartment building, the streets were always empty. The security guard downstairs usually slept in his chair, and the lobby lights flickered with a dull yellow glow. Arman hated the silence of the building at night. He lived on the 11th floor of an old apartment complex called Azura Heights. The building had 12 floors in total, or at least that's what everyone believed. There was no 13th floor. The elevator buttons went from 12 directly back to G for ground. At first, he never paid attention to it, until one Thursday night. Arman stepped into the elevator, loosened his tie, and pressed 11. The doors slowly closed with a metallic groan. As the elevator began moving upward, the lights suddenly flickered. Then he heard it. Ding. A button lit up by itself. 13. Arman froze. There was no 13th floor. He stared at the glowing red number while the elevator continued climbing. His mouth went dry. Maybe it was an electrical problem, he thought. Old building. Faulty wiring. But then the digital floor display changed. 10, 11, 12, 13. The elevator stopped. The doors slid open. Darkness. Not complete darkness. Just enough light to reveal a long, narrow hallway stretching into the distance. The wallpaper looked rotten, peeling from the walls like burned skin. The air smelled damp, like something had been trapped there for years. Arman's heart pounded. "This isn't real," he whispered. He immediately pressed the close door button repeatedly, but the doors refused to move. Then he saw her. At the end of the hallway stood a little girl. She wore a white dress stained with dark patches. Her long black hair covered most of her face. She stood completely still, one hand hanging awkwardly by her side. Arman's breathing became shallow. "Hey," he called weakly. "Are you lost?" The girl slowly tilted her head. Then, in a soft voice, she said, "You finally came." The elevator lights flickered harder. Arman stepped backward. "No, wrong floor, sorry." The girl began walking toward him, slowly, barefoot. Each step echoed unnaturally through the hallway. Tap, tap, tap. Arman slammed his finger against the close button again and again. Nothing. The girl kept coming closer. When she was halfway down the hallway, Arman realized something horrifying. She wasn't walking normally. Her feet were facing backward. A cold wave rushed through his body. "Please," he muttered. The girl stopped just outside the elevator doors. Her hair slowly moved away from her face. Arman screamed. She had no eyes, no nose, no skin. Just a dark, empty hole where her face should have been. The elevator suddenly jolted violently. The doors slammed shut. Arman collapsed against the wall as the elevator dropped rapidly downward. The lights went out for 2 seconds before turning back on. Floor display. 11. The doors opened normally onto his floor. Arman ran to his apartment without looking back. His hands shook so badly he could barely unlock the door. That night, he didn't sleep. The next morning, he convinced himself it had been stress, exhaustion, hallucinations. But something still felt wrong. Around noon, he went downstairs to speak with the building manager. "There is no 13th floor here, right?" Arman asked nervously. The old manager became unusually quiet. After a long pause, he said, "There used to be." Arman felt cold. "What do you mean?" 20 years ago, the manager whispered. "There was a fire on the 13th floor. A family died there, especially a little girl." He swallowed hard. After the accident, people started seeing things, hearing voices. Tenants disappeared. "So what happened?" "We sealed the floor, removed it from the elevator system." The manager looked directly into Arman's eyes. "But sometimes, late at night, the elevator still stops there." Arman's stomach twisted. That evening, unable to control his fear, he requested the building's security footage from the previous night. The guard replayed the recording from 12:17 a.m. Arman watched himself enter the elevator alone. The footage showed him suddenly panicking, pressing buttons repeatedly, screaming at empty space. But that wasn't the worst part. The elevator panel clearly showed a glowing button, 13. Then the video glitched. Static filled the screen for 3 seconds. When the image returned, Arman was no longer alone. Standing beside him inside the elevator was the little girl. Her head slowly turned toward the camera. And then, the footage cut out completely.